Hello, my name is Ken Bush, and this is an excerpt of the presentation, Composite Wood-Based Decorative Surfaces, Engineered Alternatives for Rare and Fragile Natural Resources. This is part one, which is the introduction, covering the background of the materials we're going to be talking about and some innovative student and young designer thinking. This presentation is made possible by Arauco Prism. Prism is a brand of thermally fused laminate. Arauco is a producer of TFL panels as well as raw panels. Omnova Solutions, a producer of 3D laminates as well as other materials for the interior design markets. Wilson Art, a producer of high-pressure laminate as well as thermally fused laminates. And Olan, a producer of decorative lightweight papers and foils. What we're really talking about here are laminates. This is an introduction to the laminates industry, originally presented at the Savannah College of Art and Design in Savannah in November of 2017. Covered in this presentation, composite wood-based substrates, meaning particle board and MDF, and then the major decorative surfaces that are applied to those substrates. High-pressure laminate, HPL, thermally fused laminate, TFL, three-dimensional laminate, 3DL, and decorative papers and foils. So who is Ken Bush? Well, it's me. I'm a journalist and a magazine editor. I've been working in the furniture and interior design world on business-to-business magazines since 1990. For the last dozen years or so, I've been creating CEUs, Certified Educational Content, articles and presentations on materials for architects and interior designers. And I'm also an architectural photographer. I combine the photography with my magazine work to cover some of the international materials and design fairs, mostly in Germany, Italy, and Spain. Material Intelligence is essentially my company. It is a one-man band. I connect materials and producers with design specifiers through the educational content, also through live events, including materials pavilions at exhibitions like NeoCon and Hospitality Design and Global Shop. I also do materials-based market research. Companies that are interested in looking in launching a new material into the interior design world or the furniture world have asked me to go out with samples and prototypes. And I spend time with architects and interior designers face-to-face, getting their feedback on different materials and possible applications for those materials. The educational articles and presentations I put together, they're part of a requirement that architects and interior designers have to keep their professional accreditation current. They are required to do, I believe, 10 hours, depending on your association, of CEUs every 2 years. And these can be live presentations or distance learning articles. Live presentations, obviously, you sit through a presenter, usually take about an hour long, and then you get your credit for that. Distance learning requires you to read an article either online or in a magazine, and then take a brief test to show that you understand the content. So here are a couple of images from the Materials Pavilion at NeoCon in 2016. That's a great big materials petting zoo that we organize. It's become the busiest spot at NeoCon, which is the largest commercial interior design fair in North America. Designers love to interact with material samples. We set it up in a non-sales environment. We do have experts there who can answer questions about the different materials, but really we're there to educate and to answer questions and to and actually help solve problems. One of my favorite comments from this space was a designer said, "I just got 3 days worth of work done in 45 minutes because everything that I needed to see is right here." Young designers are very, very important to this industry. Their ideas for how to use materials or how to evolve materials to suit their design desires and needs has driven every aspect of this industry forward. The emphasis on responsible use of resources, new applications for existing materials, developing new materials, This all comes from a strong relationship between young designers and the materials producers. So I'm going to spend a little bit of this slideshow talking about some of the very cool things I've seen at the different fairs and in conversations with young designers. These two guys are from a company called Henry & Co. I met them in Milan in 2016. There's a special area of the Milan Fair called Satellite, Saloni Satellite. It's by invitation only. It's student designers and young designers. I think you're only allowed to go there to show there for 2 years, and then you're expected to go off and make it on your own. They have invented a process by which they can incorporate all sorts of refuse materials into decorative panels. Basically, they're making composite wood panels, but using other fibers such as hemp and clay and other materials. This particular example, they have incorporated the insulation from electrical wires into one of these panels, and that's where, of course, you see all the little colors. This is an area at a fair called Orgatec. It is a office furniture fair. Happens every other year in Germany. They are nurturing cool new concept designs. Most of these materials are not commercially available. Some of the cool things I saw there, upcycling, working with the empty water bottles and turning it into a lounge chair. They weren't actually letting people sit there, but it kind of looked comfortable. And you can get a matching floor lamp made out of the same upcycled content. This is in the Milan Design Week, which is there's the Milan Furniture Fair, and then many areas of Milan itself turn into pop-up design districts. This is an exhibit, an acoustics exhibit, that was located in one of those off-site areas. It's actually Ventura Centrale, which is a area that's set up below the main train station in the center of Milan. Out of each one of those little speaker cones is coming a different whispered conversation, and it creates a very surreal experience as you move through it. This display, as I mentioned, was set up in this sort of warehousey area under the main train station in Milan, and it was sponsored by a company called Lensfeld. You can see that in the lower right corner. It's called May I Have Your Attention, Please. Lensfeld is actually a very cool company that makes its presence known each year in Milan. In 2016, Lensfeld had launched a furniture line, an office furniture line, where every single piece in the line was exactly the same color, exactly the same tone. This tone you can see here, it's beige essentially. And they called it the Boring Collection. Everything's exactly the same color. I was I visited their display in Milan. They basically took over a warehouse and set the furniture up in very unconventional ways, and made it just a very fun experience. I asked the architect, who is the sort of the tall guy there, what was the idea behind boring furniture, and he said, well, you know, the people should be the most interesting thing in any office. So we're going to make our furniture the background, and the people will stand out. And he's pictured here with some students that actually helped him set up this exhibit. And they do like to have a good time. All the wadded up paper was actually related to a video that they were showing. It's a little bit hard to explain, but it was a spontaneous design adaptation, and they ran with it in their Milan 2016 display. These are acoustic panels made out of pine needles and a bio-based binder created by a couple of Russian design students. They did not want to tell me what the binder was because they said it was so simple, if they gave me any hints, then anybody could figure it out. So they basically created wall panels and ceiling tiles out of this material. Smelled really nice, did a great job of absorbing sound. And then they took the resin system that they developed, and they actually cast the pine needles in molds. And this is, for instance, this is a bar stool. So they created, and it was very lightweight. They created a very cool very flexible material out of the forest floor, essentially. This really doesn't have much with materials I'm talking about today, but I was just absolutely mesmerized by the design and always just stunned by the thinking of young designers. This is all still at Saloni Satellite 2017. This goes back to 2016. This is a bookshelf created by a young architect who's from Iran, but living in London. This is a 100% sort of tab and slot construction. It is not glued or fastened by hardware. She was nice enough to actually create miniatures of some of the furniture she designed. I just found the visuals very striking, and this is something that could be done with the materials we're talking about today. This young lady is from a university in Sweden that is closely allied with IKEA. IKEA creates a mission each year for the students to work on, and it's a real-world problem. And if any of the designs are successful enough, they actually do get incorporated into IKEA's catalog. This year, well, this is 2016, the mission was to create outdoor furniture. So her philosophy was, what she created was a cushion, a system of furniture using cushions for outdoors. And she was saying, people tend to forget their cushions outside. It rains, they get moldy, and then you have to throw them away. So she had her cushions printed with a mold pattern. This is called the mold chair. And so even if it does get a little bit moldy, you can clean it. Even if it's stained, you don't have to throw it away. I do not know if IKEA picked this up for their catalog, but I thought it was a fantastic idea. This is a wall covering concept at the Heimtextil Fair, which is every year in Frankfurt, Germany, in early January. It's considered the first major design fair each year. Kicks off about 6 weeks worth of nonstop fairs if people really want to put themselves through that. I was very curious about how they got such vivid butterfly prints on this. It's kind of a silky wallpaper. And I was told those are actually real butterflies that they'd incorporated into that wallpaper. This is an entire office concept made out of corrugated paper, basically paper boxes. Very, very lightweight, very sound absorbing. You can see the detail here. The whole corrugated look actually is kind of hip. And as I'm hanging out in this space, I'm wondering how long is it going to take somebody to just sort of stumble on that corrugated paper pattern and start reproducing it in other materials, because it is a design that sort of evokes a green approach, because everybody just pictures corrugated cardboard as something you recycle. So at the very next fair I was at, sure enough, they had executed that look in vinyl. This is PVC vinyl upholstery for seating. You can see the little zigzags. It is indeed the corrugated paper look as a design element. Also, it made for cooler seating and more slip resistant than some of the standard patterns for that upholstery. This is a young designer from Sweden, Malin Bobeck. She works with textiles. She created a method for cracking optical fibers without destroying them, so that you get these areas of light refraction, and you can weave them into textiles. So she'd created an environment where as you moved through it, it responded to movement, it responded to touch, it responded to sound. It was a little bit like being in some sort of deep sea luminescent fantasy world. She's gotten a lot of attention for her work, and I think she's doing quite well. Thanks for watching part 1. Please stay tuned for part 2, where we're going to cover composite wood panels. And please do visit our sponsors: Prism TFL, Amnova Solutions, Wilson Art, and Olan.